Five amazing facts about DNA. Number 5. Prominent individuals. Fact: there is an immortality drive aboard the International Space Station that contains the DNA of prominent individuals. On October 12, 2008, a Russian Soyuz spacecraft flew a mission to the International Space Station orbiting around Earth. On board, it carried a small memory device with the digitized DNA sequences of various, questionably, important people, including comedian Stephen Colbert, physicist Stephen Hawking, Playboy centerfold Joe Garcia, and shamed pro cyclist Lance Armstrong. The purpose of the drive is to provide the building blocks to resurrect humanity should an apocalyptic event destroy the planet. Number 4. Serial killer. Fact: a DNA mistake gave life to a serial killer. Female serial killers are triflingly rare, but in 2007, a woman dubbed the Phantom of Heilbronn assumed national prominence in Germany after the murder of a policewoman. The Phantom's crimes were too numerous to mention: scores of brutal murders and thefts, a string of brutality extending as far back as 1993. The Phantom struck in France and Austria, utilized accomplices of every nationality. There was no clear pattern, no video footage. The Phantom walked through walls. And then police discovered male fingerprints that read positive for DNA. It was only then that they realized that there was in fact no Phantom of Heilbronn. The cotton swabs used across Europe to collect DNA were found to be contaminated, likely by someone packing them in the factory. The sterilization process used to treat the swabs killed bacteria, fungi, and viruses, but it did not remove DNA. The implications of this blunder are far-reaching. Besides the obvious waste of thousands of man-hours, there were dozens of savage crimes whose culprits were virtually ignored while investigators chased a ghost. Number 3. Immortality. Fact: there are some creatures whose DNA renders them virtually immortal. The science of aging, or senescence, is vastly complicated, but broken down into layman's terms, our DNA is subject to entropy. That is, with each cellular replication, it becomes a little weaker or less efficient. But there are some species whose DNA does not appear to break down over time, or at such a reduced rate as to be almost unobservable. Lobsters, some fish, and many tortoise species do not appear to age, and under completely optimal circumstances, could essentially live forever. This is called negligible senescence. The oldest tortoise on record was Adwaita, an Aldabra giant tortoise that lived to be 255 years old. It is important to note that such animals, while they do not appear to succumb to old age, are still subject to diseases, injury, etc. And the longer an animal lives, the greater its chances of eventually acquiring such a condition. Adwaita died to liver failure after his shell was cracked. Number 2. Identical cheetahs. Fact: cheetahs are almost genetically identical. Laboratory mice and rats have been scrupulously inbred over generations to produce identical results in scientific experiments. But tests of the DNA of cheetahs reveal that they too are almost identical to each other. It is believed that an event occurred some 10,000 years ago during the Pleistocene epoch which reduced the population of cheetahs down to as few as 7 individuals. Perhaps not coincidentally, this time frame coincides with the rise of modern humans and the extinction of many other large terrestrial mammals like the saber-toothed tiger. Somehow, through luck and fortunate breeding, they were able to resurrect their species, but their genetic commonality leaves them extremely vulnerable to disease. Number 1. Vikings in America. Fact: DNA proves Vikings likely brought back Native American wives centuries before Columbus. Mounting evidence proves that the Vikings were far more sophisticated and well-traveled than their barbaric reputation indicates. DNA testing has shown that 4 different families in Iceland has shown a genetic variant common only to Native American and East Asian blood. A study by the University of Iceland offers compelling evidence that at least one native woman was taken back to Iceland, with DNA evidence dating back to at least 1,700, and according to one mutation, likely hundreds of years earlier. There is little historical evidence to back this up. While the Vikings reported contact with the natives, most contact was apparently hostile.